I started my leadership career over 17 years ago, and yes, I have embraced the fact that I can no longer call myself a young leader. But I started as a very young leader, leading just 2 people, both of whom were at least 20 years older than me, and definitely taught me some lessons around the challenges of being heard and respected in my leadership role. I found initially that my ideas and opinions were often dismissed. I struggled to be taken seriously, and I often felt that my youth or perceived youth was a real barrier for my leadership. One thing that it took me a bit longer to learn was that this actually wasn't personal. It might have felt really personal to me at the time, but there really are some systemic biases and stereotypes, particularly at the time when I was a leader, which is, over 17 years ago. And these biases can hinder your progress. And I would say that at that point in time and in the industry that I was in, being a female was a bit of a barrier for me too. But I have learned some strategies that help me break through and be heard in my leadership role, which I think can be applied to any situation, no matter where you're at with your leadership career. So the first one is around communication. I discovered some quite useful aspects of being a bit more of an introverted leader. I discovered that I would hear a lot more about what was going on and pick up a lot from what people were saying and how they were acting that would help me really determine what was lying underneath some of the behaviours that I was seeing, as I was prepared to sit back and listen a lot more, as I didn't really love stepping myself right out there and speaking up, particularly really early in my career. I also experienced a number of times where I tried to speak up in meetings and I'd be talked over or kind of ignored. This forced me to be really deliberate about what it was that I was communicating, as I also found that when I did get the opportunity to speak up, it felt like everybody was staring at me, as it sometimes required others to tell people to shut up so that I could talk. So again, quite intense. Having experienced that kind of scrutiny and intense focus meant that I really did need to get quite deliberate about how I was communicating and what I was going to say. This worked out quite well for me because over time it meant that when I did speak up, I had a very clear and concise message, and others started listening for me to talk and then asking for my opinion, as I become known as somebody who would be more considered in their approach and would actually have taken the time to listen to others before I spoke. This style of communication meant that I was more direct in terms of what I was saying, because I felt like I had very little time, but also I am a bit of an impatient person, which worked in my favour in terms of my communication style, as I was quite keen to get into the action, the ask and the why of a situation so that I had clarity about what was happening. So for communication, in terms of being able to be heard, I found that being clear and concise, which came about by being really deliberate in my approach and considered about what I wanted to get across, was really important. Active listening also helped me build relationships with those around me, as I was really careful to ensure that I understood the needs and wants of my team and also picked up on those body language cues too. And I've done a video which is linked on your screen about how to read what others aren't saying by looking at their body language, if you want to go further into this. And if you are getting some tips from this video, it'd be awesome if you could subscribe. It gives me a bit of a boost that someone's interested in this and finding value in these videos. The second strategy, in order to be heard in my leadership, was to get more understanding about a bit more of the technical aspects of what my team were actually doing in their role. I'm not talking about being a subject matter expert in the work that they do. I'm more talking about gaining some knowledge so that you know what it is that they're actually talking to you about and some of the challenges that they might have in their roles. This enables you to support them really well in their work and also understand better any decisions and the impact that they might have on the team. It also meant that I could speak up on behalf of my team when important decisions were being made because I had a good understanding of what it was that they did and how decisions would impact on their work. I can remember many situations in the past when it was so obvious that my manager didn't have a clue what it was that I was doing in my job. This was usually fine. However, there were occasions where I just needed a bit of a sounding board, and that wasn't my manager, so that didn't end up being the person that I would turn to when I needed a little bit of advice. So I think getting some kind of grounding in what it is that my teams do in terms of technical knowledge is quite useful. The third strategy to ensure that you can be heard as a leader is to build your confidence. Having confidence in your ideas and your abilities and your opinions is really important if you want to be taken seriously. If you are coming across as nervous or unsure or unclear about what it is that you want or need, this is going to be really obvious to those around you and hard for them to really look up to you and take you seriously. And the only way to build confidence is to keep practicing. If there are things that make you really nervous, then it's important that you keep doing them so that you can become more confident. So for me, public speaking. I have to keep practicing and practicing in order to feel more comfortable and confident so that I can speak in front of others. And it's not usually knowing the content that's my issue. It's just the nerves of other people watching me and staring at me. I have found that if I am nervous, thinking about it more makes it even worse for me. So often I'll just practice prior to the event occurring, and then once I know that I've kind of got it, I leave it alone. And then I can be a little bit more natural and less rigid when it comes to actually doing the thing. The fourth strategy in being heard is being authentic. This is about really embracing your own qualities and strengths and what you bring to the table so that you can just be who you are and feel confident in what it is that you are doing. If you are trying to be heard and feeling really frustrated and you're kind of copying what other people are doing and agreeing with the people that are really loud because they seem to be heard more, this is going to bite you later on. It might sound stupid, but this is often how people end up in jobs or roles that they really don't like or don't feel fit them properly. It's because they've kind of just gone along with things as they've progressed through their career and agreed with the people that they think might be able to create more opportunities for them. And then they haven't really connected with what it is they really like or what it is they actually believe and think about things in order to make the role their own. It can also be years down the track before you realise that actually agreeing with Bob on everything he said to get myself this next step up in my career has meant that I kind of have to go along with what he was saying. Otherwise, why did they hire me? They hired me because I had the same opinion as Bob did, but actually that's not my own opinion, and now I'm doing something I don't even like or agree with. It's Bob's fault, obviously. Anyway, I have definitely made these mistakes in my leadership career, which has resulted in me being in not quite the right job or it not feeling like the right fit for me, which is why I created the Leadership Career Blueprint. As I realised through trial and error, finding my ideal leadership career was actually a framework which could be utilised for anyone trying to realise their own dream leadership role. So make sure you check it out in the description. And thanks very much for watching.